Hello there and welcome to the Holiday Heart Kit video instruction. If you don't know who I am Liz Wertz and I am a local henna artist and art teacher, and I'm so excited that you've picked up this kit so that you can create a beautiful heart to remind us to see not just with the eyes in our heads but with the eyes of our heart. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, here we are. We are going to learn how to take all of this and turn it into one of these. So, first things first, let's go over the supplies that we have here. We have a package of Model Magic. We have a paper heart template. We have a little piece of acetate plastic. We have a tiny little vial of glue. We have a silver Sharpie. We have a little wooden sculpting stick, a little paintbrush, and a tiny little baggie of glitter. Yours might not be the same color as mine. Everybody has some different colors, just for variety. And you also have a package of beautiful Super Tips markers. The only things we're going to need first are the Model Magic, the paper heart, and the modeling stick and the Sharpie, so everything else we'll set aside. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up the Model Magic. And you can kind of see the texture it has. I'm going to go ahead and set that to the side. What we're going to do is we're actually going to trace this template onto the acetate. Like that. You're going to need a pair of scissors for the next step, because then we are going to cut out the heart. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if your heart's a little bit lumpy, but this is going to give us the basic shape of what our project is going to be. And if you didn't get a chance to open your Model Magic, that's fine. We can open it really fully now. This is a really fun product to work with. If any of your Model Magic gets stuck to the inside of your wrapping, you can always snag it with the main lump. So what we're going to do next is we're going to divide up the Model Magic into equal portions. So we're going to divide it first into half, and I like to do that by making it into sort of a log, pinching it right about in the middle, and then twisting. So they're about equal halves, right? Set one half to the side, go back to one of those halves, and then pinch that in half so that you have two little quarters here. Set one quarter aside and then bring the other quarter back to join the other half. So now you have 3/4 and 1/4. Now we're going to do even more dividing in fractions, because we're going to divide this 3/4 in half. So let's mold that into a little log shape. Again, pinch and twist, and then you have your two halves. We can move the template aside and the marker for now, and your scissors too. What we're going to do is we are going to roll one of these little halves into a little log, like so. And we are going to make a little circle, like that. We're going to place the circle on top of the heart, and then start to change the circle into more of a heart shape. So where the circle connects at the bottom there, we can kind of pinch that to form it into the tip of the heart. Then we can pinch downward that top there to make that the top tip of the heart. And then mold it around with our hands until it creates a basic heart shape. And you can flatten it out too. There we go. pretty much all we're trying to do is make it about the same size as the acetate plastic heart that we cut out. And we want to make sure that the window on the inside isn't too small. Make it something that you can actually see through. Then we're going to flip over our little heart so far, and we're going to keep rolling the other half of our little log. We want to do the exact same thing with this half as we did with the first half. Roll it into a nice little log, make it into a circle, place it on top of the acetate heart, and then start to mold it and shape it, pinching to make the bottom little tip there, pushing that middle part down, stretching it out, pinching, stretching, pulling. It's a little bit like making bread, especially if you're making a loaf that's supposed to be a certain shape. And what you might like to do is kind of go around to the other side and see how your window is looking. You may want to pinch a little bit here, scoot a little bit there, so that your window looks like it's about the same on both sides. And now you have a nice little window. Now we have one last thing to do with our model magic. That's this little last quarter. Remember our last little quarter here? We are going to roll it out. Roll, 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 roll. Keep rolling and rolling and rolling until you have a very long, skinny snake. Then you're going to you're going to fold that in half. Okay? Now you want to go ahead and test it and make sure it's about big enough to go around your whole heart. Whoop. And then you're going to roll one hand down and one hand up, so that we are going to twist this into a rope. And every once in a while you can twist more sections. You can twist one section more than another if you have one section that's a little loosey-goosey and one section that's really tight. One section just might need more twisting than the other, so you can kind of manually twist. Okay. Now we are going to start at the top of the heart and just kind of push it in there. And you might need to twist every once in a while as you go around. But we are adding a beautiful little twisted border, almost like a little braid, to the edge, to the border of our little heart here. And what that does is it covers up any of that acetate that might be poking out. And it also just makes it really pretty. If you have any coil left over, you can keep twisting it if you like and make it into a little loop like that. So that way you can easily hang it. If you don't have any left over, you can always poke a little bent paper clip into the top and make a hanger out of that. But now this needs to dry. These take an awful long time to dry because you don't want to color them while they're wet for a couple of different reasons. The first reason being that if you color them when they're wet, you can easily smush with the markers the shape of your heart and kind of deform it. The other reason is that if you color it while it's still wet, the markers don't have a nice crisp look. They do when they're wet, but you'll find that when it dries, it looks a little fuzzy. And you can see that on my example here. Some of the little eyes look really crisp. It looks really crisp around the edge here. But when it gets closer to the center where the heart was still a little bit wet, they get a little fuzzy looking. And I really like a crisp look to my decorations. This side, this whole part was dry when I finished it, so that's definitely something to think about. So we are going to let this dry for at least 24 hours. 48 hours is better. Maybe once or twice a day, if you remember, you can just flip your heart over, because as it dries, it might tend to flatten a little bit. So if you kind of flip it every once in a while, like a pancake, you might have a better chance of keeping both halves looking a little bit more even. So we are going to fast forward to a couple of days from now, and you can go ahead and bring this video back up when you're ready to decorate. All right, so here we are for day 2. The reason we waited at least 24 hours is because we needed to give this little heart a chance to dry. If you do it right away, the marker will kind of look sort of feathery and fuzzy, and it just won't look as nice. So if you wait too long, sometimes it can be a little bit brittle and hard to color. So 24 to 48 hours is usually pretty good, as long as it's in a fairly dry place. You may want to flip it over once during then, like a pancake. Give it a chance to get evenly dried on both sides. So the first thing we're going to do is decide what kind of design we're going to do. I think I would like to do something kind of some greens. I might like to do maybe like some berries with some sort of evergreen sort of leafy things. So I think I'm gonna do that. So to start with, I'm going to draw my design. Well, let's see, maybe I want to do the berries first. So it's okay to think a couple of times about what you'd like to do. You can change your mind. Once you get started, though, it's a little bit hard to change your mind. So it's always good to kind of figure out what you're doing ahead of time. So for this, I'm kind of doing some little red berries, and then I'm going to couple them with sort of some little evergreen branches. So to do that, I think I'm going to take some brown and go like this, maybe like that. You know, they're sometimes kind of branchy. They sort of look like antlers right now, don't they? And then I'm just gonna do that kind of little thing here. Now, there are so many different ways that you can color this, but one of the ways that I like most is coloring the design first and then choosing a color to go in the background that won't really take much away from your design. You could keep the background white, of course. Depending on what your design is, it might look good with the background being white. Like this actually looks pretty good with a white background. What I wouldn't want to do is choose a background color that's really similar to what I'm doing. Like we wouldn't want to do a red background, would we? Boy, you wouldn't be able to see those berries at all, would we? What about a green background? Would that work very well? Probably not. We wouldn't really see our beautiful little evergreen branches very well. So we have to think about a color that would be very different from what we already have on here. And you can look at what I'm doing and you can look at yours, and you can, because you have the same markers that I do. So what color do you think I'm going to choose? While you're thinking about that, I'm going to outline my berries. Sometimes it's nice to outline things, especially things that are really brightly colored. It's just nice to sort of ground them with a little outlining, just so you can see them a little bit more clearly. Any guesses? What do you think? I could do blue, but blue is so close to that green color, don't you think? I think that blue is pretty similar. You know what I think is very different from all the other colors, that I think is the most different from the red and the green, is this beautiful lavender color. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So I'm going to start by coloring close to my objects. And you know what? If a little purple gets on the green, it doesn't really matter too much. It probably just looks like it's sort of part of the evergreen branch, doesn't it? So I'll kind of color close to my main design, sort of outlining it. And you can do whatever you'd like for this. You don't have to do evergreen branches. You don't have to do even anything that's necessarily very Christmassy. For example, oops, dropping my examples. This one I did has eyes on it, which maybe some people think is kind of funny, but I liked it. And this one just has little vines, but it has sort of Christmas colors with the red and the green. And I did eyes on that one just to remind me about seeing people with the eyes of my heart and not just looking at people on the outside and making decisions and making conclusions about them based on what I see. Because sometimes that's not always the whole story. In fact, most of the time that's not the whole story about somebody. There is so much more to you and everybody else than what people can see on the outside. So see, once I sort of outlined most of my design, then I can go back and color the rest and not really worry too much about it. Now, of course, you could, like I said, just leave it with a white background if you wanted to simplify things. You could have a much simpler design than I do. You could just go with some little fun dots that look like Christmas ornaments. You could go with, oh, I don't know, just little things that look like berries without any branches at all. You could draw stars. You could draw anything you like that you think would be appropriate on your little heart. Things that you like to see that bring you joy when you see them. You could even draw eyes. And it's okay if it gets a little bit on the border. We're going to color the border later. So we're just going to keep coloring, and you'll do a design on the other side as well. It doesn't have to be the same design, but it could be. If you wanted it to be, it could be. It doesn't have to be. And you could do, then we're going to do something on the other side, and then we're going to color the coil. So I'll show you how I do that really fast. Alright, so here we have our little designs all colored. Now what we have to do is decide what color we should do for the rim. And again, it shouldn't be something that's terribly similar to any of your backgrounds. So I think what I'm going to do is choose something that's very different from both. So I think I'll probably wind up doing this pretty orange color. It's very different from the teal, and it's also very different from the purple. So and a couple of notes about when you're coloring the cord, you don't have to choose, I mean, you could if you wanted to, but you don't have to. You could try to color every other little loop, but that's pretty tricky. So you could certainly just color the whole thing one solid color. And I like to sort of gently run the marker into those little crevices there. And something that will help the marker go where you want it to go, if you're having a hard time coloring right up to the edge, what you can also do is you can take your paintbrush and dip it in a little bit of water and help it, and that kind of smoosh it against there, and that will help the marker get where you want it to go. If it's really getting because of however you've made your heart or something, if just the shape of the way the Model Magic is, if it's really hard to get anywhere close to the edge, then you can use that. Honestly though, you can just kind of color it and have fun with it and just enjoy how it looks the way it is. Here we are. As you can see, I have a little bit of a mess with markers on my table here. That's okay though. They're washable, so they do wash off. That's one of the reasons why I chose these markers. Next, we're going to need a couple of other supplies from your kit. This is a little bottle of clear glue. You also have a silver Sharpie, a little bag of glitter, and a brush. And you also have this little stick. So the first thing we're going to do is, if there's any part of your design that you would like to have some silver Sharpie on there, I would go ahead and do that first. I might like a little, I might use mine to make these look like they're like little shiny little balls, kind of like ornaments on this side, maybe. And then I might do something kind of like little speckles, kind of like snow on the branches or something. Or just some little fun dots in between. That might be kind of fun. Or a little dot on each of the berries. Kind of like I did with the things that look like ornaments on the other side. And you don't have to use the silver Sharpies if you don't want to. They're just something extra fun. And you can use these for anything else that you want to use after this. That's the great thing about getting art supplies. So now we have a little bag of glitter, and we've got our glue and our little stick. If you have one of these little bottles with the white caps, you're just going to need to undo that little stopper. And we're going to use our little stick to sort of paint on some places where we would like the glitter to be. I think what I'm going to do is I kind of want to make it, just because my glitter that I'm using kind of looks a little bit like snow. Well, you know what? I already have snow designs on there. Maybe I'll flip this over and maybe I'll make the stars kind of glittery. Yeah, like the centers of the stars. That's the cool thing about this glitter, is you can really put it just about anywhere with your glue. When you apply it with a stick, you can put it just about anywhere on your design. You just take a little dab. And then when you're done with that, you can set your glue aside. And then you take your bag. Now everybody's got a different color of glitter. You might have green or orange or blue or silver or gold, or, you know, there's lots of colors. This one in particular is kind of a white sort of glitter. And what you do is you just dip the brush into this micro fine glitter so you can see it sparkling on the end of your brush. And then you put out your finger, and then you just tap. You tap your brush onto your finger, and what that does is it releases the glitter from the brush so that it falls down onto your project. It may look like you're getting glitter everywhere right now, and you kind of are, but it won't be like that forever. And tomorrow, when the glue is all dry, then you'll be able to take your brush and you'll be able to brush the excess glitter off of your project, and it'll only stick to the areas where the glue was applied. So it won't just cover your whole project in a giant coating of glitter. So don't worry about that. If you want to put glitter on both sides, you're going to need to wait a day or so just to make sure everything's fully dry before you glitter anything on the other side. So there we have it. There's our little project. Now, ooh, look at all that sparkles on my table. This is one that I did earlier. So this is one I did a few days ago. You can see that when I brush it, with my brush, the glitter comes off of everywhere except where the glue was. So for this one, I just dotted it around on some of the places in between my design. So there's just a couple little subtle dots of glitter in between my design. That's what I did for this little guy here. So you can do whatever kind of design you like, any kind of idea for your glitter. You just have to make sure that you wait. So if you try to brush it off right now while it's still wet, that's not going to work. So there you have it. There's your finished holiday heart. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed making your little heart. Whether or not you keep it on your tree or put it somewhere else in your home where you can look at it all year round, I hope you really enjoy it. One of the reasons I decided to make this project was because I thought that this year has been a year where people have found it especially hard to see other people through the eyes of their heart. Because we're very good at just seeing people as they are on the outside. We're very good at just looking at them and saying, well, that person must be this way and that person must be that way. And it honestly takes a lot of time to get to know somebody, to get to know who they really are on the inside. And I don't know about you, everybody has different beliefs about things, but for me, I believe that we should be trying to see people the way God sees people, because God doesn't see people as they just are on the outside. He knows their hearts. He knows their deepest motivations and fears and desires and wonderfulness, everything about a person. And so if we can take some time to remind ourselves to not just see people with these eyes, with the way that we see people on the outside, but to try to get to really know them for who they really are on the inside, then we could probably do a lot of really good work towards unity in our communities and in our nation and in our world. So I hope your beautiful little heart reminds you of that, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday wherever you are, and I also hope to see you again soon sometime. And until we meet again, bye!